Anastasia Ivanovna Filatova was born on February 4, 1920, in Sapojok, in the west of the Russian SFSR. She was born into a family of 5. Soon after leaving school, she moved to Moscow, where she became a Komsomol organizer within the Ministry of Trade. In 1941, she had a fiancé who served in the Red Army at the front. After they separated in 1943, she met Mongolian Yumjaagiin Tsedenbal while he was visiting. In Mongolia, she was first received with caution, as many considered her to be a Soviet overseer, keeping an eye on Mongolian politicians. Her marriage to the leader of Mongolia was perceived as a conduit of the influence of Soviet ambassador Nikolai Vazhnov, and had the blessing of the Premier Khorlugian Choibalsan. Keeping a low public profile in the 1950s and the 1960s, Filatova aspired to have a political role of her own in her later years. She relied on the authority of her husband to subtly influence the Mongolian political landscape. She also built up connections with officials such as Vyacheslav Molotov, who served as ambassador to Mongolia at the time, and relied on the influence of Soviet leader Leonid Brezhnev, whom she regularly appealed for funds for a palace of pioneers and young technicians, pioneer camps, swimming pools, and a children's fund. The First Lady's Fund became one of the main institutions of the country. She lived in Moscow with former Mongolian leader Yumjaagiin Tsedenbal after he fell from power in 1984, and stayed in Moscow after he died in 1991. When she arrived in Ulaanbaatar from Moscow to attend Tsedenbal's funeral in 1991, the Mongolian prosecutor's office attempted to interrogate her. During her last years, she lived in poverty and was often forced to sell her belongings in order to make ends meet. Moreover, her eldest son Vladislav died unexpectedly when Anastasia was in hospital in 1999. She died on October 21, 2001, aged 81. She was buried at the Vagankovo Cemetery in Moscow.